And this time, I do not have the mic on because this is, you can't make this shit up. I'm David Washington, Joel Hawksley. We are JNW or J in Washington LLC. We are your political innovators here in Central Florida. And this is our flagship podcast. Joel also does the Morning Constitution.
And David does the David Washington Show, and my favorite, the Countertop Politics. You
Yes.
guys, it's wonderful to be here with you today. It's always a pleasure. But if you're looking for innovation, if you the reason we're doing things differently is because we're tired of the same old stuff, right? We have so many people out there that are so smart that they're going to get it, right? We're going to a digital world. We have all this other stuff, but people just want to see. I just want to do Facebook, or I want to do this. Like, no, broaden your horizon. Look at everything that's available, and go for it. And Jay in Washington, best thing, David, is that the Leadership Academy.
Yes.
The
Yes.
Leadership Academy is coming along just phenomenal. And if you want to sponsor it, it's a great opportunity to get in front of people. We're going to keep the classes small. If you have people that you just need to get a little training, come out. I mean, it's about leadership. It's about growing and knowing what goes on in a campaign, knowing what people face out there. So the communication section alone is worth it because
Yep.
we have Stephanie Quinn that does she's a 3-time Emmy Award winning journalist.
Yes. She
And
knows her business.
you're going to have her for one day. It was short days, just weekdays, so you take a little time off. It'll be great, and it's going to be I believe it's the last week of September. Going to be great.
We've had opportunities to attend leadership academies in our lifetime, and I attended one recently, presented at one, and what I noticed throughout the class is that the real world in real life experience is what get people excited. It gets their eyes widen, their ears perk up, they're sitting up in their seats, and it's that real world experience that we discuss in our leadership class, leadership academy, that people need to hear. Not what they want to hear, but they need to hear the real world application to political innovation, to political campaigns, to political marketing.
Well, David, that's why the reason I bring it up is because we're going to be talking about voting, and I love to talk about voting, but what it's just a perfect opportunity to say, look, I want to develop finances, right? But here's the one coming out of the box, you make a big to do. It's your first time ever running, and the leader of the Democratic Party goes after you with an ethics complaint. Did they teach you that? Did they teach you what to do with the ethics complaint? Are you going to fold? Are you going to back down? What are you going to do? That's why you need Leadership Academy, because you need to know what could happen and what has happened. So, David, take it away.
Let's jump in. So, we're in the thick of the election cycle. And here in Florida, Chapter 2023 120, formerly SPB 7050, would prohibit first time voters from voting by mail if the state confirms they weren't issued a social security number and don't have a Florida issued driver's license or ID. The bill has been criticized, it's been amended, and it is also being praised by some election security experts who argue that it would improve the integrity of Florida's elections. So this bill has been through the ringer. It's waiting for the governor's signature at last check. But it pulled back from a lot of the more stringent and more concerning points in the bill. but it does change how people who are hired or volunteer to register other people to vote.
Listen, it's kind of weird the way it's worded.
Mhm.
I would just say, look, if it's the first time you've ever voted, vote in person. Vote
Sure.
in person. I don't care if it's about, social security numbers, all this other stuff. Look, take that opportunity. But I would go one step further, David, because I just think that we're lazy. We're lazy. Everybody should come out to vote on that one day and really show your spirit. But
Patriotic duty.
we've
Civic
grown,
duty.
but we've grown. It's not realistic. We've grown to the point where what we do in Florida is a good thing. Like, you remember the days when you had to, it was called the absentee ballot. Some people still call it that.
Yes.
We do the absent ballot chase. No, we do a mail-in ballot chase, because you used to have an excuse. I'm going to be in the hospital at that time because I'm getting my, I'm getting this or that. It's like you couldn't. You had to, like, put in an excuse. I'm being out of country. I'm going to be in Canada on business.
Hey, to go back to your point about election day voting, I'm all for that if election day was made a national holiday
Oh, absolutely.
and that people had the freedom to go to vote without worrying about daycare, about missing a couple of hours from work. If it was a national holiday and access to the polls were expanded, because if it's a national holiday, more people will go to vote, and therefore more polling places will be needed, more volunteers, et cetera, and that's why I'm not ready to say end early voting or vote by mail voting. I prefer to still have that opportunity to do that, and to take it even further, which is something that I hope we discuss in some of our other projects. Put the ballot on the blockchain.
Oh, wow. So David, I like when you say, make it a national holiday. I would just say make it a holiday, make it a state holiday, because then your state is involved. If you make a national holiday, do you realize that the state does not have to
That's true.
recognize it? So
right.
So
Make
you'll
it
have
both
states,
state and
states
federal.
that won't do that, and
Right.
and that will be ridiculous. But
I say
in
both.
Massachusetts, I was never in school. I
Right.
was never in school on that Tuesday, because they use our schools,
Correct.
which is great. Make it a holiday.
Mhm.
You can use your government buildings, especially the schools, because guess who's not there? It wasn't until I came here that I actually voted in a church. It wasn't until I got here that I voted in a library.
But I it's a double-edged sword in having kids stay in school on election day. I would love for them to see the process, but it'll be a mess. And there's other ways of teaching kids about their civic duty than having them sit in class
No, we
while
never.
people come in and out of the
Massachusetts,
building to vote. In Illinois,
Massachusetts, we're not in school.
we saw that. We were in school
Oh
at the
yeah,
time.
no, we are out of school. At least when I was younger, we were out of school,
Mhm,
and I always voted with my mom.
mhm.
And you're saying little kid, but I was a kid. But I would go with my mother,
Mhm.
and I saw her do her civic duty.
Right.
My brothers would stay at home. That's fine, but I wanted to see what she was doing. Why are we off from school this day? And that's how I got involved. And they give you in Massachusetts, when you were younger, they gave you your own ballot, and you could pick like the orange or the banana. Or
Yes,
it
that's
was
very cool.
so fun. It was so fun. But yeah, I agree. Every state should take the initiative to make it a holiday, make it where everybody has an opportunity to come out and vote, because voting in person is so much better. It feels so good to say, I've done it on this day, and every vote that's coming in has being counted right now.
The part of this particular bill, this pending legislation, would make it a felony for anyone who has a felony conviction to collect petition signatures. And after each general election, and this law will go into effect in 2024, after each general election, each third party registrant or register will have to certify or re-register their status with the state. And so it's very, very, very difficult making this the opportunity for people to one, have a felony conviction and have a job, and then collecting petitions. So it's just very, very, very stringent in the terms.
And our landlord,
Our business partner,
our business partner is in the house, and it's really great because you know what? He's going to be interviewed eventually, anyways. And he was the very first Puerto Rican elected to the Florida House.
Yes.
So I was reading that an article the other day said first Puerto Rican Republican to run. So my head went to, I knew he was a Democrat when he started, but did he finish as a Republican or did he turn into a Republican? He's an independent now. Listen, when your party leaves you, and we talk about this all the time, it leaves you in the fastest way.
That's true.
And you stand there and you feel like you're suffering. Like I can tread water for just so long. So that's Tony Suarez. I loved the guy. The first really Politico that I got to know, and I said, "Oh, you're different. You think the right way." So I appreciate him.
Right.
I appreciate him.
Let's take a pause.
Yep. So,
all right.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Tony got a chance to come in. It's always great to see him. Okay, voting.
We like voting.
We like it, and
we encourage voting.
Well, we just encouraged people to go out on the day. But again, federal holiday, state doesn't have to follow it. So I would urge every state to do that. And I mean, it's just nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's nice. You're not taking Columbus Day off anyways.
That's true. You know, some of the laws in regard, some of the stipulations in this new bill, this new law, does restrict the third party registers. That's the point I was trying to make. And it does put some limitations, makes not certification, but registration with the state a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but David, the difficulty is simply in there's a portion on the bottom that has to be ripped off and given to you. So it's actually giving somebody a receipt to tell them, hey, this is the party I put you in, right? That everything is kosher. I mean, my daughter, I think we've had this conversation before. My daughter is an MPA. She didn't even know it. She's arguing with me that, and I'm like, you don't argue about your registration because I know what you're registered.
There are fines now.
Yes.
That will be included if you do not provide that person who registered to vote a receipt. And if you don't turn in that registration form in a timely fashion, that's a fine. The fines have gone up exponentially.
Nice.
Is so many things about that. Also, the third party registered and the person registering on behalf of that third party entity, they need to register, if that makes sense. That individual needs to register.
Oh yeah, well, I think we've always had to be registered, get a number as a third party. You know, I mean, the lady the Republican that got in trouble in Lake County was working under, I believe, another person's number.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thought that that other person was going to get in trouble, but you know, that guy that will not be mentioned because I was like, I don't say his name, even though he's a big Trumper. Yeah, but so look, fines
Right.
fines are there to discourage. Now,
Mhm.
I find that fines only affect the poor people, and if not how now it affects middle income people, people that have got their money like set aside. You
Mhm.
people out there working paycheck to paycheck,
Mhm.
and this might be their paycheck.
Sure. Right.
So I guess if you put the fines in place, it really makes it tougher for them, but it also makes it worth the money that getting paid. So
This
pay them.
particular law is so far reaching. I mean, people really need to um, read into this. There's stipulations for supervisor of election offices in regards to the review of voter files.
Well,
Again, who's allowed to register. The language. There's been a stipulation in regards to the language on the actual card that says something to the effect that this is for informational purposes
yeah,
only,
d-
and double check with your voting status if you are a returned citizen. If in fact that you are able to vote, you better double check.
well,
Just because you have the card doesn't mean that you're
yeah.
eligible to
No,
vote.
look, I totally understand,
Yeah.
and I. The thing is, we went after the supervisor of elections at the last election with the drop boxes. That drop box had to be monitored. It had to be monitored the entire time, and if it wasn't monitored, the supervisor of elections had to pay a fine. It was a hefty fine, if I remember correct, because I was having this conversation
Mhm.
with Bill Cowles, and it was a hefty one. And then Anna Askamani like opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, yeah, we have what happens to the drop box that has that blue one with the little white symbol on the side that has the little bird called the United States Post Office.
Mhm.
You still got mailboxes, so just come on, guys. It, you got mail-in ballots that are being turned in here or here, right? And bundling something that they're trying to avoid, but it's hard to like it's hard to tell somebody they can't do something that's not ever monitored. The supervisor election doesn't know if you bring in more than 3 ballots,
It's
unless you bring in
it's
more than three
difficult.
ballots at
It's
one
difficult
time.
stuff. So my final word on this is that for those third-party registrants, read this bill, read the law. Is Senate Bill number 77050 and the last time I checked, it was waiting for the governor's signature, but it does stipulate many changes in voter registration in Florida.
Well, maybe I'm hoping that it has like gets pocket veto. He doesn't sign it. I don't know if we have that in the floor. No. Look, I agree with what the Republicans are trying to do, except I just there is a point where you go too far.
Mhm.
Again, if you make it look like a duck, smell like a duck, sound like a duck, it turned into a duck.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
We're out. Like, comment, share, all that good stuff.